We have 5 ingredients that we can use as service designers to add some sparkles of story elements.
So you should use characters, you should set a context, you should use timeline, you should use emotions, and of course you should use images.
I'd love to try an experiment with you. We could use storytelling ingredients in 2 different ways in our world of service design. One way would be I'm using these in order when I have to communicate. For example, when I create a service blueprint or I create a research report, and I add some of these elements to make my report or my service blueprint more readable and easier to use. So it's the backstage avenue, if we can call it like that. And then the other avenue is and then there is the front stage avenue, where it's using story elements within the services. So if we are a cafe, adding elements in the cafe experience that create this notion of story. So let's maybe start with the first one. How would you use character, for example, in a research report or a service blueprint? How would you add character elements in something which is quite dry like that?
Yeah, well, okay, it's been a long time since I last read a service blueprint, but I think you can really, there is this concept of persona that we use in marketing, and I know you use it in service design as well. So persona is already using characters inside your work, actually. So you could use them as well. And you could also, instead of having a service blueprint, which would be step A, this happens, step B, this happens, you could just introduce things. And then let's imagine that Linda is walking into our cafe. Linda will first encounter this, and just by saying Linda will, I think it's already more interesting than just saying step A is this, step B is exactly. I don't know, maybe Linda disagrees, but so that's for the backstage. And for the front stage,
how would we use it in a cafe? I have a weird idea.
Yes,
it's one that I've seen in many hotels. Now they do that, where you have your room, and the next you go in your room, you sleep, and then you leave and you go in the city. Usually your bed is not in a wonderful way, and when you come back, it's really well done. And now what they do often, they add the photo, like Linda made your bed today, and you have the photo of Linda, and this is Linda and her signature, and just, there is a human behind that. It's not just, it wasn't an AI that came and made this magically, but, I can relate to Linda. She looks like another friend that I know. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a good example. I experienced something fairly similar a few years back. I had a problem with my TV box, and I had to call the call center like at 10 p.m. So to provide a bit of context, I ordered a new TV box that finally would help me experience HD TV. It was a few years back, of course. It took 2 or 3 days so that to get the package at home, etc. So I had it. I was, yes, tonight I will be installing this and experiencing HD TV for the first time in my house. And I tried it, and it's cables in, etc., etc. It didn't work for I don't know what reason. So I had to call them, and they said, let's try this and this. Okay, it's probably the remote control, but so that we are sure, we will send you a whole new set with the box, remote, cables, etc. We're really sorry because it's 10 p.m. It won't be at your home. Tomorrow it will be the day after, but we can't really do things better. We hope it's okay. So, okay, whatever. The guy was quite nice at the phone. And I got the package the day after tomorrow. And in the package, there was everything that they said there would be. And there was also a small USB stick. I don't remember, but it was quite a big stick, big capacity for the time. And there was a signed note, handwritten notes by the guy on the phone who said, I'm really sorry about this experience. We hope it will be okay this time. And this is a little gift to thank you for your patience. And I was like, wow, that's nice. So yes, I think it's really similar in work. So yes, showing the real people behind the service or the products is something that is a good use of this character thing, I think.
And it's something that marketers also now do. A lot of the notification newsletters and stuff now are not like info at something, but now it's like Ben from Intercom speaking to you. And it adds this element of, oh, okay, I prefer speaking with Ben from Intercom than speaking with Intercom.
Info. Yes, of course. Yeah, you're right.
Awesome. Let's take the second aspect, which was the
context.
Okay, how do we use context when we maybe have a report to enrich the report? What could we do?
I think something that could be interesting, well, I would try it, and I think as a reader, I would like it, would be to say, okay, for this research, I went to Stockholm. That was in February. There was a snowstorm. It was quite a ride, but then we had a few days to research things. And this is just a little thing that people can read and say, oh, yeah, poor guy, I can relate, or he's so picky, I would love to be in Stockholm. But something that makes it human. So really just to introduce things.
Yeah, a little bit of the behind the scenes where it's like, okay, I get from where it's coming. One thing that I find interesting with this notion of context is also sometimes it's useful to remind people what's the emotion that triggered that research project. Sometimes, hey, remember how we had this big problem and then we said we need to fix it. That's why we are doing this project. And then, but not just saying, hey, do you remember back in the days, the boss said we have to do this, but going back to the emotion. Do you remember how we felt when this happened? And it sucked so much. And now we're trying to fix that by going through this research. So now let's go into front stage again.
Maybe in the cafe, let's say you don't give out plastic straws to people. It's maybe not a real example because now we know that plastic straws are not good for the environment. But you would say, instead of saying there are no plastic straws, you could say why. I think context is really about explaining things and explaining why we do things like we do, instead of just saying, oh, that's the way it is. No, we do it like this because it's just adding a because sets the context in a way. So I think this is the easy way of using context in the front stage.
So it's basically for every signage elements that we could put explaining the why, not just saying forbidden to be, don't park here, but don't park here because this is where the nurse will come and say, okay, I'm a good guy. I will not stop the nurse from coming here, which again speaks to emotions and relationships instead of just pure facts.
Yes. Or you have maybe a sign saying Q is this way, and you could just have Q is this way or Q is this way. We set this sign because last time we had a fight inside the cafe.
Giving a bit of context, indeed. Awesome. So what's interesting for me with this little experiment that we just did was to show that these elements was just a bit of thinking. And I think that's what we show here. Just with a bit of brainstorming, taking the 5 elements as you described them and thinking, okay, how can I apply that? Obviously, if you do it with a friend like we just did, works really well to think, okay, how could we use it? Because it's quite simple in some way.